Hi there. Good noon and a very warm welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep CAT channel, where on behalf of all my team, I wish you a very happy new year. I hope that you had a great and responsible party, and even if you did not have a party, as long as you enjoyed it, I think that is what really counts. So now that the celebrations are done and dusted, and we have that hope and optimism for the coming year, let's just retain that and work together on our goals once again. So today we plan to go ahead and talk about XAT. So if you have any XAT related query or question that you think I can help you with, and you know I can help you with VARC, decision making, communication, then those are the kind of things that I would love to get from you in the comment box down below. And once I receive those, we definitely go ahead and start working on those together. So how did you celebrate? Just keep dropping me. Just try to make me jealous if you can. And let's go ahead and start with our decision making. So my name is Vikrant, and I am here to help you with making your decision making section easier today. So you've already gone through quite a few sessions. I am sure you have received some invaluable learnings. Let us just condense it all and try to put it into practice. So here is a bit about the XAT. So we know that it has two parts, part 1 and part 2. Part 1 involves 3 sections: verbal ability and logical reasoning, quantitative ability and data interpretation, and this new section called decision making. Something that it used to be there in IFT long ago. There were a couple of other exams too that used to test this, but of late I think XAT is the only one that tests us on decision making, right? So if I look at it historically, there have been a lot of variations in the number of questions that they ask, but of late they've sort of stabilized. So nowadays we know that we are supposed to expect around 21 decision making questions in the exam. There is no sectional cutoff, there is no sectional time limit, and therefore you can devote your time to whichever section that you really fancy. Okay, but you do need to score a certain amount of marks in each section, right? And decision making is usually the one which is tough. So I will not really get into the caselets and the singlets and the areas that they belong to. You've had your workshops, and those workshops are I'm sure, they've basically told you a lot. So let us just tie it all together in this particular session and then take it up from there. Hang on, I'm not able to read your messages. Just give me a second. Sicario, one session on poem-based RC. I did include one poem in my last class, but an entire session on poem-based RC is here. Let's see, let's see if we can try doing that. I'd have to talk to my content team. If possible, we'd definitely bring it out. Then, oh, Sahili, you're not getting marks in quant. Some of my colleagues, Saral sir, Naveen sir, Gaurav Gupta sir, GB, they would love to help you with that. So you can go ahead and look at their sessions on this particular channel, and I'm sure they tell you how to approach it. Right? So let us dive into it. So what exactly is a decision? So I'll keep it laser sharp focused on decision making today. So I want you to tell me how you define a decision. So what exactly is a decision for you? And whatever you tell me is something that I plan to write here. This is actually a blank slide. I've just left it for you. Come on, tell me. What exactly is a decision? So, well, so far nothing. Okay, so let me then dive into what I do. So, okay, course of action, considering the present situation, future situation. So let us see. I know that when I look at this word, it has this root word involved, cis. Cis means to cut. Remember incision, scissors, and then DE basically means away. So can I say decision essentially means to cut away? So there are times in your life when you encounter a situation where you're not very sure of which path to take. So decision is all about cutting away some of those paths, and the last path that stands is the one that you walk on, and that is a decision. So if I were to define it, can I say that decision at the end of the day is choosing of the best option among the multitude of options that are available to us in a given situation? Then yes, quite a few of you are adding more things. So Yasmin is talking about best, yes. Rutvik is introducing socially and ethically acceptable things. Yeah, definitely yes. Preet, that will be too specific. I don't know why we really think of this way generically when it comes to decisions, but let's see. So what exactly is then decision making? Decision making refers to a mental process that helps you choose one of the several alternatives, right? So that's what decision making is essentially all about for us. Now, how do you know that you are in a decision making situation? In XAT, of course, you know that the section is called decision making, so the questions are going to test you on that. But decision making is a part of our everyday life as well. So in your everyday life, how do you know? How do you realize that you are in a decision making situation? How do you really figure that out? Saheli, that will be, is that true that you have to be in dilemma? For example, when you opened your eyes in the morning today, you decided to get up. You decided to defy the gravity of your bedding and leave it. Was there any dilemma involved per se? Dilemma is going to be perhaps a very extreme word. Okay, so yes, definitely. So you're saying that because we have options, we know that we are in a decision making scenario. But then come to think of it, right now you are in a situation where you have options. See, you're sitting in a room. Maybe you have some object lying around you. You can choose to pick it up and throw it against the wall. You're watching a video. You can go to the like button and hit that like button to send some love my way. But merely because we have options present, do we really call it a decision-making situation? In case you have a person sitting around you, you can probably pull that person's ear. You have that option. But merely because you have options does not automatically mean that it is a decision-making situation. Preet has added something more. When we realize that this thing is going to make an impact on our future, that's better. So can I just add one word and say that there are 4 core components of the decision making, and the first one that we should generally start with is the objective. So for Preet, the objective is to make his future better. So that's a general basic objective that we all have. Of course, how to make that future better can boil down to doing things which are even more specific. So we always need to have an objective. If you don't have an objective, you are not in a decision making scenario. Of course, the second core component is options. If you don't have options, if you don't have choices, if there is only one thing available to you, that's not a decision making situation, right? For instance, now that I have learned it after years and years, when my mother says the dinner is ready, it is not a decision making situation. Whatever she's made is the thing that I need to eat. So there are no options, right? So I don't think of it as a decision making situation. I do not apply my mind unnecessarily. Then the third core component is uncertainty. The conditions must be uncertain. See, if everything is known with certainty, right? If everything is known with certainty, then we don't really require a human being to take a decision. We can always feed that information into a computer system, and that computer system can go ahead and provide us with the answer. Humans are required, at least so far, because everything is not known fully. When you go to a new restaurant that offers certain new dishes, or maybe even dishes that you're familiar with, but you do not know the taste of each one of those dishes at that new restaurant. So you need to still take a call and place an order. So dealing with that uncertainty is really, really, really important. Now let us think of a situation. I really love how so many answers are coming in. So we have something from Guru Prasad, then Ayush, stakeholders. Absolutely. Ayush, I'm coming to that. Yasmin is saying, being in the Robert Frost perspective in the road not taken. Maybe. Okay, but let me take you to something different. Okay, so let us imagine that you are at a casino. Now, what is the objective at a casino? To earn obscene amounts of money really fast. Are there options available? Yes, there are different games or machines or numbers or colors that you can bet on. So there are options. Are the conditions uncertain? Do you know the winning number, the winning combination? No. So there is a lot of uncertainty. Now imagine that you are gambling not with your money but with my money. So would you really think hard before betting on a particular number or betting on a particular machine, a particular game? I mean, that's not your money, right? That's my money that you're playing with. Whatever loss occurs is my loss. It's not your loss. So you won't have to think. So there is this fourth very necessary, very essential component, and that is risk. You must have skin in the game. There must be some amount of risk involved, because if there is no risk involved, then why would you really need to think hard? Then the decisions would go and become easy, right? So we know that we are in a decision-making scenario, a decision-making situation when there are these four things present there. It's only then that we can take this call. Otherwise, it's not even a decision-making situation. You are not even supposed to think. Okay. So now that we know these core components, we'd use this understanding to start solving our question. So here is my first tip. Whenever you look at any question, it gives you a situation, right? That situation is going to be a combination of objectives, options, uncertainty, and risk, right? So the first tip is always start with the objective. In your mind, you should be absolutely clear about what it is that you want to achieve in that particular situation. Now, what complicates the matter a little more is the simple fact that you may not have just one objective all the time. It's possible for us to have multiple objectives. And in case you have multiple objectives, then you need to think of doing what? Ranking them. You need to know which objective is more important, which objective is not as important or less important, so that when you look at different options, you may not find a perfect option, right? In the exam, you may not have the perfect answer choice available. So you can at least know that if it involves compromise, then which objectives are the ones that you should be willing to compromise on. Right? Oh, Zenify Yasmin, absolutely yes. As that famous dialogue in Spider-Man goes, with great responsibility. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. So with a great mind, you obviously have all this added responsibility there. Okay, so always start with a clearly defined objective. If you don't have a clearly defined objective, you may struggle to evaluate the answer choices. Tip number 2, always be ethical. As far as our XAT exam goes, I'm not really turning it into a lecture or social science lecture or a sermon on morality, but as far as our exam goes, always be ethical. If there is any answer choice that involves doing something that is unethical, eliminate it. However, you need to be familiar with something called ethical dilemmas, and then you need to learn to deal with those. So somebody has already used this term. I am sorry, I forgot who that person was, but what exactly is a dilemma? Dilemma is a situation where you have two options, or at times even more than two, where you are not able to choose between them. Why are you not able to choose between them? So let us see. An ethical dilemma basically presents you with two alternatives, two options. No matter which one of the two you choose, some of your values are going to be compromised. You will not be able to meet all your values. So, when we talk about ethics and morality, we generally talk about a value system. So, value system essentially means that we have more than one value. So, ideally, we want to live by our values, but what if the situations are such that you are not able to live by all of your values? You'd have to compromise on some of those values. So, you'd compromise on things which are smaller. The examiners would typically use a lot of life or death situations to fool us. For example, if I just ask you this question, should you pay a bribe? Your answer should be no. If I ask you that, okay, if you pay a bribe, you can get an electricity connection at your house tomorrow. If you don't pay a bribe, it will take a month. Should you pay a bribe? Your answer should still be no. But if I tell you that there is a person who is critically injured and requires urgent surgery, if you pay a bribe, the surgery will happen right now. And the person, there is a great chance, there is a great possibility that the person will be saved. However, if you don't pay the bribe right now, the surgery won't happen. The person will die. So should you pay a bribe now? So you realize what is happening here. You have two values. You want to save a person's life if you can, and at the same time you do not offer bribes. But if I have to compromise on one of these two values, which one of these two will we compromise on? That's what an ethical dilemma is all about. That understanding of what is going to be a better thing to compromise on in a given situation. So normally there are these life or death situations where this can possibly work. Okay, and mind you, ethics are all about determining what is right and what is wrong. Ethics are all about deciding what is good and what is bad. And it can at times be a very tricky, subjective area, but the more we discuss, the better it is. So be ethical. Tip number 3, look at the cost involved. So in every answer choice, in case you're doing something, chances are that there will be some cost involved. So can you sort of quantify that cost? Can you figure out how much of that cost it is going to be? Right? Sankirtan, if you leave it to me, I will pay the bribe and get the surgery done. It's not a happy situation to be in, but if I have to choose, I'd rather save a life than to hold on to not paying a bribe. Right? So, yeah, absolutely. That is what I meant. That do not look at ethics and morality as just associated with certain things. See, even in the electricity example, electricity connection example, there was a deeper value at place. I value the comfort of my family. So if I get an electricity connection today or tomorrow, I am able to ensure the comfort of my family versus offering a bribe. That was the catch here. So which one of these two values to choose? Sorry, I should say do not bribe. So that is how it all boils down to. Motivational video, they'll make it a philosophy lecture, yaar. They'll make it a philosophy lecture. So we'd probably leave it for some other day. So make sure that you look at the cost, and then tip number 4, figure out the risks involved. Now, a lot of people think that figuring out the risks is difficult for them, but personally, all I do is I look at two things. The two things are, number 1, what is the likelihood of the risk? How likely is that thing going to happen? And the other thing that I look at is the magnitude of the risk. So think of it this way. So you have your likelihood on on y-axis and magnitude on x-axis just plotted there. As this curve becomes, as you traverse further, the risks eventually start becoming untenable. They become the kind of risks that you should not even take. So just look at likelihood and magnitude and then determine whether that risk is safe to take or not, or you can ignore it or you cannot take it. You'd be able to figure it out. For example, let me give you one simple example. Let us say that you're driving a car. Okay. Now, what is the likelihood of getting a flat tire? On a scale of 100, what is the likelihood of getting a flat tire? So if I look at it, I probably get a flat tire once a year, at times even once in 2 years. Not very high. Diksha, when you say, can you explain once again, you need to add what it is that you want me to explain once again. Okay. So, and there have been a lot of sessions that have already occurred. So I'm assuming that you've acquired the basics from there. That is why I'm going a little fast. So please mention what it is that you want me to repeat. And mind you, it is a video, right? You can always go back and review that part. So you don't need me to repeat it. Let's bring in that adjustment too. So on the other hand, if you went through that part and you still could not understand it, I would want you to make your question a little more specific so that I can focus on that component, right? Okay, Srikar, Diksha. So what is the likelihood of getting a tire punctured? I will say that it is more like, let's say 0.01. And what is the magnitude of risk on a scale of 100? Now, if you get a flat tire, you don't lose your life, but I'd still put it at, say, around 70 or 80. Why? Because we bought a car to go from point A to point B. With a flat tire, we cannot do that. So it defeats the very basic purpose of buying a car. So you notice, although the likelihood is very low, but the magnitude is fairly high. That is why you'd notice the car manufacturers give us a spare tire. They give us a stepney. Right? On the other hand, let's take another example. What is the likelihood of a turn indicator failing? I think even less than that, maybe I'd say 0.001. And what is the magnitude of risk when a turn indicator fails? In India, it's just a mild inconvenience. Half of the people do not even give it. So maybe a 10 on a scale of 100. So you notice the likelihood is low, the magnitude is low, and therefore this is a risk that can be ignored, and that is why we don't have a turn indicator in a spare turn indicator in the car, but we do have a spare tire. So just look at the likelihood and magnitude. The world is all about probability, right? So adopt that probabilistic thinking and you'd know. So whenever there is a risk, think of how likely is that event and what is the magnitude of that risk. And if a scale of 100 is a bit too much, you can just use a scale of 10, right? Okay, so tip 5 is that you combine all of these things together. So now that we know all this, what is an ideal answer choice? Here is an ideal option. The best decision is the one that allows you to achieve all your objectives at zero cost and zero risk. At the same time, you need to be ethical. So you need to do the right thing. I put right here in quotes because the right here basically mean ethical, moral. Right. So that's it. That's all that we do. And if you do it consistently, you'll be able to arrive at the right answer more often than not. So let us go ahead and look at a question. Here is some information for you on the screen. This information will remain available on the next slide as well, but the font size will be smaller. So I wanted you to read it comfortably before I take you to the question. So the moment you're done with this paragraph, just quickly drop a yes in the comment box and I'll take you to the next one. Thank you. I'm really glad that you liked the critical reasoning session yesterday. Huh? Done? I'm assuming you're done. I mean, such a small paragraph. So here is the question for you. What is your answer going to be? I mean, the clock at my desk is ticking and I'm really very eager to see what your answer is going to be. Okay, so D is one answer. Then we also have C. Okay, so 2 Ds, 2 Cs, 3 Ds, 4 Ds, 2 Cs, 3 As. Oh, wow. I think except B, I think everybody has managed to rule out B. So, and rightfully so. Chalo, so let's rule out B. So we left with the other three. So let us discuss the other three. So what did we decide? When we solve these questions, what is the first thing that we do? We determine the objective. So what is our objective here? Our objective here is that if that lady is being harassed, then the harassment must stop. Or in other words, if she is in a situation where she's not safe, we would like to ensure her safety. Now, when you look at A, call the in-laws for an explanation, we are forgetting this if. So number one, is this girl telling you the truth? Do you know that? So there are two possibilities, right? Remember, I told you conditions are going to be uncertain, right? So she is stating the truth or she is lying. Now, if she is lying and then you call the in-laws for an explanation, what happens? What will happen? The in-laws are going to be needlessly harassed over the words of somebody who has lied. So that's a problem, right? Okay, now let us say that the girl is indeed stating the truth. So let us say she's stating the truth and now you call the in-laws for an explanation. So if the in-laws come, let us assume that I am the father-in-law. I've come. Now what are you going to ask me? You're going to ask me that, you should, are you harassing your daughter-in-law? Or stop harassing the daughter-in-law. What will my answer going to be? Now so even if I harass, what is my answer going to be? No, we don't harass her. She's just raising a false complaint. Come to think of it, if the in-laws actually harass her, they will still tell you, no, we do not. And now they also know that their daughter-in-law has approached somebody else for help. It has increased the safety for the daughter-in-law or decreased it further? On the other hand, if they do not harass, even then their answer is still going to be no, we do not. Whereas, but in the first case, you have actually made the situation less safe for the daughter-in-law. So, I think A can very safely be ruled out. Okay, B, everybody has ruled out, so I'm not going to talk about it. C, take action after her parents approach you. Why do we want to wait for the parents? What do we stand to gain? What if the parents never approach and she dies? Does she not have her own agency? And mind you, you are an administrative authority. So you're duty bound to act. So we can rule out C. Okay, then D. Now, ideally, you want to perhaps help us more. The first step will be to figure out whether what she's saying is true or not. You'd like to help more, but then you are not an investigating authority. So ask her to lodge a complaint with the police. Given the situation, this is going to be, given these four options, this is the best possibility. The police can then investigate, determine what is true and what is not, and then take suitable action. Right? And don't be biased by the fact that the police can at times be in connivance, etc. No, just this is the best option here. B and C are easy to eliminate. A can make the situation worse. So that leaves us with D, the only option which has a possibility of making the situation better. So that's the kind of thought process that we need to bring in. Okay, here is another one. So the paragraph first. Why don't you read it and then we'll look at it? Yes, Shrikar. The police is going to investigate, right? You are not an investigating authority. So I hope that you've read it by now. And here are the options for you, along with the paragraph too. So tell me which one you choose. Okay. So I have three answers so far, and we are looking at B versus D so far. Let's see. How about A? How about C? Okay, B or D. If you're thinking of B versus D, I think shouldn't you also be thinking of A versus B? C as well. Yeah, why not? Why not? Why not? You notice in our daily life, we've all sorts of people who will pick up each one of these options. I mean, different individuals will actually approach it differently and will pick something up. That's what makes decision making so fascinating and relevant. So let's see. What is our objective? Number one, we need to save ourselves, right? At the end of the day, it was a meeting, important official meeting, right? and you did not attend it because you were not aware of it, you need to obviously save yourself, but at the same time, you realize that your boss is also a part of your team and you have certain responsibility towards your team. So you would also like to save the boss if possible. And between the two, obviously the first objective has a higher priority, the second happens to have a lower priority. Now the first option that we can rule out, yeah, absolutely Harsh, I agree with you, is D, and that is because D is unethical. We are lying to shift the blame on somebody who is innocent. We can't do that. Okay, now if I opt for C, my first objective gets compromised, right? If I look at A and B, my first objective is met. However, my second objective is compromised. Fair enough? So when we send an explanation and tell them that, yeah, I was not even told. So obviously it absolves you. So going sheerly by that, I think we can eliminate C and D. It all boils down to A and B. So which one of the two is better? In both the cases, you will state the truth and you will manage to absolve yourself. However, between A and B, you notice in A, you sending whatever you want to say, you're sending it in writing. Whereas in B, you are going to talk about it. You'd not send it in writing, you'd be talking about it. So in which one of the two, your probability of meeting the second objective is higher? So in the first one, the moment you send a written reply, the second objective is compromised. But in B, because you are talking about it in person, you can perhaps influence the top boss in such a way that he lets your boss go scot-free. So the probability of meeting the second objective is higher in B, and that is why that makes it the best answer choice for us. So just look at it, right? Look at the risks involved and the costs involved and the objectives, and then think it through. Think whether a particular option allows you to meet that objective or not. And that's what we talked about. Now, so very frequently we tend to forget that, and that is why we have these issues. But don't worry, it is exactly for these situations that Mark Twain had said a fabulous quote. Ayush, whatever is given to us in the options is supposed to be feasible. Let's just do it. And is there any harm in approaching the top boss? Does it put you or paint you in a negative light? Think of it. So it is for such situations that Mark Twain had this fabulous little quote. Good decisions come from experience, but experience comes from bad decisions. So make sure that you go out and be decisive. Take a lot of decisions. Some of them are going to be good, some of them bad, but even those bad decisions are going to make you better. And let's not forget that we still have our last lap to XAT going on at 7 p.m. every day at this very channel. So today you will have the last 6 months of GK beginning at 7 p.m. So if you're somebody who's worried about GK, that is a session that you should not miss at any cost. And then tomorrow we'll have decoding algebra and modern maths with Gaurav sir, right? And on the day of the XAT exam, that is 8th of January, we will meet you at 7:30, bringing you the first impression along with the detailed analysis with some of the leading experts in our country. In case you happen to have any other question, any other concern, you can of course put it in the comment box right now, or we are wherever you are, right? So in case you know of anybody who's preparing for CAT 23, so we are wherever you are. So make sure that you reach out to us you can reach out to us at any of these platforms, particularly the Telegram group that we have. So I have a question here. I always approach my top boss and my immediate boss does not help me. If you always jump hierarchies, then that reflects poorly on your immediate senior. Then he's not going to like it a lot. It's as simple as that. Right? What else? Mayuk is saying in real life, it is not practical. Why? I mean, whenever I find myself in such a situation where I need to influence others, and I believe that a written word alone will not work, I politely ask for an appointment. I go there and I politely state my points. And I remain open where, I mean, there are times when I may say certain things which are wrong, right? And I may not see them as wrong. So if I talk to that other person, I also go out and become wiser. Prakshi, mocks are effective always, always. If you are an aspirant, mocks are a part of your life. Shrikar, I will have to talk to Abhimanyu sir for that. But when I say GK, remember it said last 6 months. So it appears that it is going to be more heavily oriented towards the dynamic GK, the current affairs. Right? So once again, think of the objectives, look at costs, look at risks, do not do anything that is unethical, and you'd get more of these questions right. Right? So that is it from me today. I look forward to meeting you guys very, very soon, one of these days, where we'd once again sit down, pick up a new topic, and then just have fun with it. Right? So until I see you next, a happy new year once again. Stay safe, stay focused, and stay in touch. All the best for you.